Everybody, before we start, while we wait for people, can you put your hand up if you have like a Discord for your game? Do people use Discord? Do people not use Discord for their game yet? Sorry?
Just one?
One or more, yeah. Do you have multiple? Has anybody got a Discord and they're just like never again? Or that's the worst thing I could think of? Nobody's there? All right. And what about TikTok or Reels or Shorts? Does anybody? Yeah? All right. Cool. And has anybody sworn off it? You've tried, you get like 50 views here, 200 there, and it's just like, this is a load of crap? Yeah. Okay. All right. So in theory, this talk is about why Discord and TikTok, Reels, Shorts, why they can actually work for you, hopefully. So when I started, I just had no idea. Like there was no advice anywhere. How do I run a Discord server? How do I make TikToks? What do I do? And so I'm trying to like distill thoughts into this. This is what I wish I had have known when I started a year and a bit ago. So we'll get into it. And when I say socials, I mean TikTok, Reels, and Shorts. So I'll just call it interchangeably, but it's all kind of the same thing. Righty, so who am I? Just basically, I've been playing games for a long time. I've been making them for a while. I've developed 7 games over the years, which when you do the math is not very good, like a game every 3 years, but it's kind of complicated. I won't go into it. But basically, a year and a half ago, I made a little meme game as a little WebGL game, and it kind of took off. I put it on mobile, was doing TikToks and things, and it kind of exploded. So this is the story of sort of how I did that and how it went. So just to be a bit hyperbolic and controversial, the premise here is that the way we're making games at the moment is kind of broken. So we sort of put a game out there, we develop it for a bunch of months or years, we hope it's going to go all right, maybe put a trailer out, maybe make a TikTok or two and then kind of give up. And it's the fingers crossed kind of development that if I get enough wish lists, maybe it's going to be okay and the Steam gods will shine down on me and things will go well. But the idea here is that I'm seeing a lot of friends, in indie studios or in bigger studios, they're working for a long time and they're putting a game out and it's either getting bad reviews, which is hurting these really great teams. Like they're super smart people making amazing games, but there's some disconnect. They put the game out there and it's not doing that well. Or worse, you get these games that have 99% ratings on Steam and 500 people have downloaded them, and it's like, what's going on? So there's these these two ends, and I'm certainly not getting negative on that, but I just feel like we're kind of still living a bit in the past of how we develop games. I'm going to kind of talk through how I think we can do that a little bit better. So I don't want to name names as much as possible. There's obviously one obvious one that you can name, but this is just an example of 2 games on Steam that I'd been looking forward to for multiple years. They became part of my identity. I was so excited. I pre-ordered. I spent all the money on the stuff that still lives on my desk, and they just kind of bombed commercially, critically. And my thesis is that the reason for this is because they're not working with the community. They're almost at odds. Particularly, one of these was a sequel, and the first game or 2 was really good, and then by the 3rd one it was almost like this combative relationship with the community. It's like, you guys don't know what you want, we've made the game that you need to want, and obviously the people have spoken. So kind of the solution around community-driven development, it lands in these sort of 3 pillars around building games with the community. So it's about growing the community and using socials and things to get people in. Like, how do you go from, I have 4 people in my Discord, like what the hell do I do from here? It's about making better games, so working with the community to improve your game every day, make it better, and then really about building stronger relationships as you kind of go through, particularly if you're planning to release multiple games. Not just releasing a game and then hoping, I wonder if these people will come and play the next one, and starting from 0 each time, and how to kind of build that up. And if you wear a suit, it's kind of that whole acquire, engage, retain that all of the suited people like to talk about. So it's really going into all those things. So before we get into it, this is what used to happen. So what we kind of do is we'd make a game, We put it out on the store, and there were like a handful of other games releasing that week, and that was it. If you got onto Steam, onto a console, you were kind of guaranteed a certain number of sales, and you'd kind of made it. And that's how it used to work quite a while ago. But things have changed. Pretty simply, this is how they've changed. So this is Steam games released per year up to 2023. I cut 2024 out because it was like partway through the year, and it made the graph look wrong because it was down, but the 2024 is on track to obviously be far more. And so there is a mobile version of this, but I cried when I saw it. It's basically worse. Like the numbers and the exponential growth is just insane. And so this is kind of why we can't do it the old way. It used to be you could make a game, you'd put it out. There were so few games out there. Everyone heard about it, and if they liked it, they'd buy it. So what did we do? Well, we started doing things like trailers, going to the press, desperately trying to get somebody to respond to an email from you, like, check out my game, it's really good. And worst of all, obviously having to start spend ads, which is for an indie developer kind of a killer, to try and spend a few dollars per install and hoping that things go well. So I have the new way. A warning, it looks kind of crazy. I'm going to unpack the next slide, so just wanted to like give you guys a warning before we get into it. I will explain sort of how this works. So this is the new way. This is how I developed my last game, Jet Attack Move. Either the worst or the best name for a game, I'm not sure. Because it was a meme game, it took me 30 seconds to come up with the name, Jet Attack Move. The company's called Attack Move, so I was like, be good advertising. It's good for SEO and things, surprisingly. But this is basically the way that I went about building it. And so effectively we start at the top with socials. So this is how we bring people in. How do you go from having no one? It was me and myself on the Discord. And I'm like, well, how do I get people in? Like, I can walk around the streets where I live and tell people about it, but there's got to be a better way. And specifically with socials, it's about short form. So about making these super short little videos as a way to reach mass audiences very quickly and to get people just knowing anything about your game, sort of as a step one. Obviously pushing people from there to your store, but more importantly, pushing people from there to your Discord. So sort of the takeaway tip number one is like, do I link people to my Steam page or my store, or do I link people to my Discord? From what I've done in the past, basically both works. So sticking a link tree in or something else, people will go to the store and download your game, and they'll go to your Discord. And the retention rate is like crazy high for the number of people that actually click through from TikTok, from Instagram to go to whatever you're asking them. The main thing here is, normally you would look at whenever you put a barrier to something, when you show somebody something, you're going to lose a bunch of people. It actually works all right here when you have a link tree that goes off to multiple sources. People will kind of go through and click all of them, which is good to know. So just some numbers, like a lot of these are vanity metrics, so it's not like, I'm unaware of what a vanity metric is. I'll talk more about sort of the followers particularly, actually means kind of nothing. But just to give you an idea, this is what, I'm a solo developer, so this is what I've done in the last kind of 12, 18 months, starting from zero of, I hate TikTok, this is kind of evil, I don't want my kids using it, to stop being a grumpy old man and go and learn it, see how it works, try and, relate to my kids a bit more by understanding what these things are. I think the big one here probably is kind of the downloads. So I've spent no money on marketing, advertising or anything, and I've done that now on purpose, like to a fault, where I'm like, I want to see how far I can push this. And if you were to spend ad money on 2,000 downloads on mobiles, obviously, like kind of crazy, how much that would cost these days. And then the other takeaway is the rating of the game is super high, and I attribute that to sort of me working with my community. I'm not some genius game designer that came up with something that was a 98% game day one. I built something simple, and I worked with the community every single day, every single hour to kind of course correct as I go. So kind of break up this crazy chart, and I'll just sort of take you through each of these steps. There's a bunch of data. A lot of it's just kind of a dump of things I wish people had told me. So strap in. There's a lot to kind of get through. So I guess for each of these, I'm kind of like, why? Like, why should you go with specifically short form videos? And the main thing is just being able to reach a massive audience. So unlike kind of Twitter/X or even like YouTube proper, like long form videos, TikTok and Reels and Shorts are a way to just reach millions of people like really rapidly with a very short little punchy kind of video, which I'll kind of get into why it's actually much better and it's a pretty low time sink. The other reason is fast iteration time. So I can put an update out and I often put an update out that breaks something or make some horrendous change that everyone hates, and very quickly I'll get like 100 responses to a TikTok within the hour of people just saying like, what the F have you done? Like what happened? Recently I improved the terrain in the game, or at least I thought I'd improved it until every single person told me like, what have you done? I get emails, and so this is the interesting number. I get 2-3 emails a day about really like the game, or this is horrendous, or whatever I've done, but then I'll probably get 10 or 20 messages on Discord about it, and I'll get hundreds of comments similarly, like saying similar things. So very quickly, I was able to kind of course correct. Very early on, I made a change to the physics of how the jet flies, which again, I thought was really good. And like 100% of people were just like, this is awful, you need to roll. And I actually rolled all of the code back after spending 2 days on it. So it's that kind of thing I just would never have known. And I would have intangibly figured out later, maybe the downloads have slowed, or the metrics have gone down of how many hours people are playing for each day. And so yeah, that's sort of the instant feedback leads to that fast iteration time. And I guess the summary of that is kind of course correcting is what I call it. So the idea is as you work through your game, you're able to course correct every single day, oftentimes every hour. With a Steam build, you can push it out into a beta branch, and you can have people playing it, on the Discord half an hour later, and you can be watching them play the recent change that you made, which obviously drives a lot of things. Like people love to watch somebody playing a new build of the game. People love it when the developer's there interacting with them. That's kind of the tenet of my social media is what did I get done today? And so I come from a programming background, so I love getting in the weeds and spending like multiple days redoing physics on something that ends up being terrible. And where I kind of came to was each day I need to make a video. It needs to be at least 3 to 5 seconds. But like, what have I done today? It actually keeps me honest with myself as a solo developer living in the middle of nowhere. Like, I need to make sure every day I've done something which I can show. That has double-edged sword. That has some negatives that I'll get into. I'll do things just for the kind of shock value of getting them in there, which I definitely don't suggest that you do, but it's an interesting experiment to see kind of how that goes. But the real thing is, it's like, excuse the Elon meme of sort of that, what have I done? Like, how can I be honest to myself and to my fans and the community? And that's definitely what I recommend, is each day, you'd be surprised what works. It might be you're working in Excel and you have this crazy long formula to calculate whatever you're doing with game design. People are actually really interested in that, particularly if you meme it. If you kind of make fun of it. Bugs is just a really good one. I've now gotten the habit of, instead of cringing when I see a bug, I smile, I get my recording software and I record the bug because people absolutely love that. And that's sort of the low-hanging fruit. Another kind of key takeaway is, like, we just take it for granted working on games that this is how it is, but the community just feeds on that. They're used to a game being developed, maybe they leak a couple of screenshots or a trailer, which is nothing like the final game. Being able to have that direct, letting people see every day what you're working on, I've found has worked really well. And these are my first few videos that I made, so you can see the numbers are terrible, but just to kind of give you an idea of, like, it was just, I don't know if it's probably not readable, but it was just, I would be adding stuff randomly each day. There's one there where I'd like trained an AI how to like shoot and drive around. And it's just things like that where it was a complete failure, obviously, but I got a video out of it. So it was probably something pretty positive. So I think the big thing, this is kind of a breakdown of my day. So it doesn't take that long, and that's why I suggest short form videos over longer form, full YouTube videos, or the other alternatives. I typically spend 15 minutes making a video. I've kind of narrowed it down. I have if I haven't done it by sort of 10 o'clock at night, I'll just, whatever I've got, I'll turn a video into that. But during the day, I get into the habit of, as soon as there's any surprising moment that happens, just capture it. It doesn't have to be like high production value, just get some video of what happened, put it aside. If you're lucky enough to have somebody that does sort of social media and things, you can kind of hand it off to them. But for me, I'll tend to just grab it, put it in a folder, and then when I'm having like a down period in programming or design or writer's block or whatever, I'll just then go and produce a video. And the other part from this is like an average. You may get 10 videos out of one day and none out of a week. So I definitely recommend when something interesting happens, grab it then, because you'll only regret if you don't. And the worst one is when you capture a perfect moment of gameplay and you press the stop recording button and it says start recording and you're like, "This not getting that back again." But again, it's because you're doing it every day, you feel less regret when you miss those important things. So the main takeaway here is just, it's pretty low risk. It may not be high reward, but it can be high reward to take the time to build these sort of short form videos. And then just Discord in general. So I've got almost 50,000 people in the Discord and I still don't spend that much time in there. It can't eat up your whole day. And if I'm kind of in a bit of a down period and sort of getting not quite burnout, but along that lines, it's really good just to spend time with the community and kind of hang out with them. And it really gives you a bit of a drive. So the main tip for short form videos is just do it. If you have done it and were like, that was terrible or it didn't really work, give it another try. I've got some tips here on how I think it can work. I sort of ummed and ahed at the beginning. I'm like, well, I need to get a backlog of like 20 videos so that I can make sure every day I have this cadence of release. And I sort of put it off for weeks and weeks. And then one day I just sort of started making them. And yeah, it kind of went from there. So the first few weeks, nothing will happen. A lot of the YouTube Mr. Beast kind of recommendations apply to short form videos as well. Don't expect anything from your first 10 to 20 videos. My big tip is, with every video, try and make something slightly better. Be critical of your videos, look at them and figure out, how can I slightly improve this? Can I cut it back a little bit so it's a little bit tighter? Can I do something else? And the reason for this is because, particularly TikTok, it's a meritocracy. So you can have no followers and you can have a video get millions of views, and the uptake of followers then kind of goes crazy. This is my very scientific summary of the three platforms. Partly it's a cop-out for why I'm doing so poorly on shorts, but basically TikTok particularly, it was maybe my 20th or 30th video where I got the first kind of 100,000 views and it started to tick up, and then it was like 1 million views. There's a famous line that I did read off the internet which kind of worked, was every TikTok is like a ticket into the lottery. So particularly with TikTok, slightly less so with Reels, but it's getting better. It doesn't matter what your following is. If you make a video that's really catchy, it will go to millions of people rapidly. You don't have to do that slow build like you do on regular YouTube. The flip side to that is, as you'll see if you go to my TikTok, you can have hundreds of thousands of followers and your video will still get shown to like 50 people. So this is the caveat, and that's why particularly TikTok followers is a real vanity metric. You can go big, but it doesn't mean anything. All those months, years of hard work don't necessarily pay off. And so the meme here is just go everywhere. I was going to talk about convergence and divergence, but I figured if I have time, I've got an appendix I can go through. But basically, for the most part, you can just make a video once and just push it out to all of the platforms. And they're similar enough that until you get into the high numbers, they're going to do well. So I do recommend kind of doing that. And so part of that key takeaway is I build all of my videos on my PC. So I use DaVinci Resolve for kind of like putting it together, which is like a free version of Premiere of the Adobe product. So it's that. I just use like OBS or Shadow Play to record the footage. But the main thing is I recommend don't use the tools inside of TikTok and Reels and Shorts. Main reason is you've got to redo it 3 times. But more importantly, there are tools that are on one that aren't on the other. And at least for me, that triggers me when I have a video that's slightly different on the 2 platforms, or I spend 10 minutes making, some really catchy, funny thing, and then I have to go recreate it on the other one. So post to all of them. The big thing is it is a meritocracy, so you can just kind of get started straight away, and you don't need to build up a following over many months and years. So the other thing I'd recommend is the way that you think about building these short form videos is this is its own thing as a form of entertainment. If you're there, like I'm going to like cram my game down their throat and I just want to get people knowing what I'm doing and trying to like lead people to a download page, I've found that doesn't really work. It's really about can you kind of entertain people in your own right, and the game kind of comes in as like a nice little, by the way, like I filmed this in the game. So a recent example of that is there was like an incident between a Russian and a US jet last week, and so I recreated that in the game, and that got 4 or 5 million views across the socials. People were reposting that as the official thing that happened, like because I kind of approximated the placement of the jets. But it's one of those things where I was like, I kind of wanted to inform people of this thing that happened that we should probably care about, but I did it in like a kind of jokey way within the game. And so that obviously led to another big influx of downloads because they're like, what is this game where you can like fly with the same jets that are flying around the world at the moment? Memes, which I'll get into a bit more. As you can tell, I kind of like memes. That's kind of the foundation that glues all of this. That's the thing that's the same across all of these platforms is whether you're making socials or in Discord. I've found that leaning into memes has worked really well, and it's just a good way of getting started with socials. Seeing what's working well, what's short form videos, you keep seeing the same videos over and over again. You can get into, it's a bit of a trap getting into it, but you can get into kind of making your own flavor of that is a good way to kind of get a step up at the beginning. The main thing is just experimentation. Everybody's audience is slightly different. Mine's kind of like 15-year-old boys really like fighter jets and flying them around. And so I kind of lean towards that with the memes that I make and with the videos. And it was kind of a natural, like I found that, and I think everybody has their own audience. There's the thing that people really like to watch. There's the memes or the videos that they're seeing, and it's really about experimentation is how you find that. So the way I experimented was just being critical. I try not to look at the numbers too much, but I very much am aware of when something kind of hits. And so experimentation is the only way of, like, again, because of the whole lottery thing, don't worry if you put a video out and it gets 6 views. I'll talk later about why that happens, but basically there's no penalty, like you don't get a penalty. If you make 10 videos in a row that do really badly, people will start rumoring in the Discord that you've been shadow banned. It doesn't happen, and you can always come back out. And it's really about experimenting with what your audience, where's the Venn diagram crossover of the game that you're making and your audience, what they'd like to see on social media, and kind of bringing those two together. So generally speaking, for videos, shorter is better. It's hard. I've been trained at the beginning. TikTok was like 4-second videos. That's where it's at. That's where my first few million views were from, like videos that got a few million views. That's now changed, which is really frustrating. But even when you're making longer videos, which you should now do, it's really about you get 3 seconds to kind of draw people in. Think, so I have ADHD, which kind of helps, but you've got to kind of think like everybody does, where just watch the video and think, am I bored? Imagine like graphing the level of interest and really cutting out any little parts where your mind kind of wanders or you just kind of lose it. While making a bigger video, I found that the more you can cut it, the better. The kind of rule of thumb that I've been told, I'm not sure if it works, is within 2 seconds, have a cut. So within the first 2 seconds, kind of draw them in, but then cut to something because of whatever the psychology of that is, that engages people. Whereas if it drags out for 5-10 seconds before the kind of hook, people just, unfortunately, swipe, keep on going. And yeah, so it's just basically about keeping it interesting. So as far as from what I can tell, if you make a less than 5-second video on TikTok now, you will often get like 4 views, including posting it to Discord and linking to it. There's still, I'm not sure how that works, but things will die like on the vine quite easily if they're too short. So the big takeaway there is obviously keep an eye on what's happening. You can't just relax and be like, I have the 5-second formula, I'm just going to continue to do that. Always be looking at what's happening and seeing what's working. So I recommend, this is really tricky, particularly for PC games, but I recommend, the critical thing is your game looks good. Like that's the main takeaway here. But if you can, have your game be able to run in 1080 by 920, so a vertical portrait view. Just because the whole letterboxing thing, you can do it and you can have text over it and you can where you blur it out so that it's the video but blurred. You can do all that. In my experience, it hurts. It's just better if you can get away with not doing that. So the 2 ways to do it is either the game natively runs in that resolution. Because I've got a phone game, I do support portrait, even though I hate it with a passion. But there's some really passionate people in the community. Again, I just wouldn't have supported it had I not been talking to the community about, no, I live for portrait view. So I allow the game to be played in portrait. If not, I recommend getting a little rectangle that you render just outside of the 1080 by 1920, just so you can frame what the video is going to be. It just kind of helps out, because there's nothing worse than getting this perfect footage and then you realize that it was slightly out of frame and it doesn't work for a long form video. All right, so Discord. Why Discord? So I think a few people were not using it, but for the most part, you guys have got it. So you probably already know, but basically it's real-time communications where the key is. And for me, it's about long-form feedback. So, Twitter, you can get some good things. Email, you kind of get some feedback, but really I've encouraged people to give me long-form feedback, and for the most part, it comes really well out of Discord. And the big one is you have a true fan. So you have a direct connection with that person. They may mute your server, which I'll get into, but for the most part, it's a way of actually bringing them in. And it's more than just a follower, particularly on TikTok or somewhere else. So my tips, there's a lot of them. Again, I'll kind of just race through them. We can dig into things in the Q&A if you have more questions, but here's kind of like a dump of what's happening. So the big one is, so with your roles, so step 1 is kind of locking it down. By default, Discord is very open, which is great if you've got a few friends and you're kind of all together and you need to @, everyone to be like, hey, we're heading to the pub or whatever for this thing. Works really well. Works less well when you have a lot of people in there. And as soon as you reach a critical point, you'll start getting trolls just kind of come along. With that, it's kind of restricting pings. So just from the get-go, just have pings off by default for roles, particularly everyone, and only turn them on as required. And add specific ping roles. So this goes both ways, letting the community ping each other. But when you send a notification out to the community, try not to everyone all the time. Try and keep it specific. So I have one for each platform. So when there's a new iOS release, I'll people that are interested in that. And socials and giveaways. Different people want to hear about different things, and if you everyone, they're just going to mute your server and go away. And then from that, I kind of have a mod and a design or dev team, which are roles within it, which probably too much for this talk. But basically, give the dev team the highest responsibility and give them wear as a badge of honor, and the community really respects that. And the big thing is, the community loves it talking to a dev directly. At least a few times a week, I'll get someone amazed that a dev's actually talking to them. They've been playing games for years and they've never had that kind of interaction. So it's worth kind of calling that out. So I have my build notes. This is one way I show transparency. So all I do is with my Git commit messages, I just kind of wrap them up. I try and keep them clean. I have like a little filter. I put a dash in front of it if I don't want, an important or critical security thing to get out. But basically, I show regularly whenever I make a build. I have a Discord bot that pings the server and just tells people what I'm working on. It's a double-edged sword. If there is less activity or you don't want to be transparent, obviously don't do this. But I've found it works really well, and people can't chat in this channel, but I get a lot of emoji reactions like fire or grumpy face or whatever. It's like, again, a really good way to kind of read it, and people will reference the message and then have a discussion somewhere else about, hey, that thing we've been asking for is finally going in. Also helps if you have multiple games. I have a little tag that, like, in this case, Jet Attack Move has had these things added, so it's a good way just to kind of keep it. This is obviously the opposite to like League of Legends change notes, which are very well written and controversial and very careful. This works well for like smaller games. And again, it just gives people a bit of a view into, oh, he's been working on that terrain rework for like 4 days. That's going to be really good, right? And then obviously fails horribly. But it's just a good way to keep people, connected and knowing what's happening. So bugs is like a really good one. So I've used tracking software, like bug tracking software before at bigger studios. But for a small team at least, I've found that Discord is like a really great way to keep track of bugs using the threads feature. And so anyone can go in, log a bug, you ask them not to have duplicates, but when something critical happens, you will get 10 versions of the same thing. And the community mod team's awesome at like zipping all of them up. And I just have then a fixed tag so people can see, again, activity and what's happening around the bugs kind of getting fixed. And I just make it part of my sort of daily routine as part of the community, engagement, community-driven development is I'll fix the bugs as they're logged because it encourages people. If somebody logs a bug and they see you fix it like 22 minutes later and have a conversation with them, like you've got a fan for life. That person's going to log every single bug that they see. And you can probably see from the names that there's one duplicate, but for the most part, people all over the community come in and will log a bug. So yeah, it works super well. What doesn't work well, I would say, is suggestions. This is kind of like really hairy. As you see, there's more suggestions than bugs in the last 30 days. I find it really hard to keep up. I'm kind of not sure whether I should do it again. I don't know if I'd recommend doing it, but just wanted to give you the data there of, I've done it. I haven't really even implemented more than 1% of them, I'm guessing, because there's just like literally thousands of them. But it's a good way to kind of get a read, depending on your game and how you want to work. It's a good way to kind of read the general mood of where people are wanting things to go. Obviously, the big takeaway here is that you're still the dev. So I'm not advocating for like, just put up a blank game and say, what should I build, everybody, and kind of move from there. That could be cool for like a game jam or something, but really the tenet here is that you're setting the direction and you're just course correcting from the community. You're not letting them drive what your game is. You start with a jet game and like tank attack move is the one that's requested the most, that like you should make me be able to drive a tank. And like at least once a day I get that request, and it's a great suggestion, but sort of out of scope. I mentioned this before, but basically, do as little announcements as possible. So the big thing you don't want, the worst thing is when someone leaves your server. The second worst thing is when they mute your server. You get stats on mute, so if you go into the server stats, once you reach a certain size, it'll tell you the number of people that have muted your server. And it's a really good way when you at everyone or when you do something big, it's good just to keep an eye on that. Did I have an influx or an outflux of people like abandoning the server? Another thing that works really well is I have a dedicated gameplay feedback sort of area. So this is where I run a poll And when I'm unsure, or sometimes when I know what the answer is, but I want to kind of get people interested, I'll put out there and have a poll to get people to sort of weigh in. And again, this is a course correction. It's not should I do tanks or planes, it's there's like a UI I'm really not sure about. On the left here is like I really wasn't sure how I warned that you're going to crash into a building or a mountain or something. And so I just kind of showed people the options. And for the most part, you get like an 80% majority. 80% of the time, it's exactly what you would have thought. And there are a bunch of surprises though, where it's just totally different to what you were expecting. And so you can do memes kind of start coming into this. So I had my nacho plane, and it's like, does a nacho plane shoot nachos or cheese? Like it's a real, I think that was one of the most responded ones in a while. And then obviously things like my shirt. So things that like, I don't really care. I don't know what looks good. So I just put it out to the community. I'm like, I'm going to wear a shirt. What should be on it? There's 5 choices. So you can't just put something inappropriate. But people kind of really love this, this kind of engagement. Obviously that's not gameplay, but for the most part it is. And then just competitions, really good to run, just treat Steam keys, or if you have anything other commodity like in-game coins or whatever, that's like something that people really want. And you know, within my community, there's a lot of people that just have no access to money, and so they can do things, you know, for the community and get rewarded with golden jets or whatever else. But it's also a good way for community expression. So. In this case, this is like a screenshot competition, and like I didn't quite have tears, but I was almost brought to tears with like the quality of what the community can build, and that's really where working with the community is just like so powerful. To see the kind of things that people are creating from my creation is pretty amazing, and it gives back to them. So Discord bots. So basically, if you've got a game developer on the team, like a game programmer, they can make bots. They might not want to, and that's a whole thing, but it's actually really simple to make a bot. Compared to, you know, you've got 1/60th of a second to render a whole world and do all these complicated things. Having a bot that responds to people is actually pretty trivial. So I recommend writing your own bots. I've relied on a few in the past, and most of them end up being deprecated or go off on a, you know, crypto tangent or something horrible. So it's good if you can build some of these things yourself. I do recommend it. One thing I've done, which I don't know if it's a good idea, but I integrate the bot directly with the game. So when people upload a level that they create, the bot will ping some trusted people and say, hey, somebody just uploaded a new level. Can you go check it's not got hate crimes, war crimes in it? And if so, they'll approve it via the bot, and that will then go and, you know, allow it to be played as a community level. And again, using roles for all of that. Subscriptions don't really apply. We can't do subscriptions on Discord in Australia yet. Hopefully it comes soon. Me6 is what I use for like a VIP type thing. That's like a paid bot that offers subscriptions. Otherwise, Patreon has integrations. So you can give people specific roles within the Discord, access to private chats, access to you as developers with subscriptions. So development, sort of how do we change our game? How do we change the way that we make games to sort of fit with this community-led thing? So the big thing here, as I alluded to at the start, is we get real-time detailed feedback from the community, and it's really about these course corrections. So every day, every feature, I'm putting it out there and I'm getting a temperature test on every little thing that I add. So it's kind of step 1, make a video about new feature, kind of allude to it coming. Step 2 is actually releasing it. Step 3 is then, well, how did it go? Was it really good? Do I need to roll everything back and like put the handbrake on, or what needs to happen? And like, I think that's what I attribute the positive reviews to the game, is that sort of constant feedback, getting a feel for what's happening. And then obviously the big thing is just pushing users from the game to Discord. Like, it's a simple thing, but just having a Discord button in there that's really prominent. I know a lot of games on Steam are starting to do that, but it's worth doing, particularly because if things go well on the social side pushing into the game, this feeds back in. So if you get a feature or anything else, the people playing the game will join Discord and you'll kind of keep them around and retain them. So this is kind of at least my naive view of how we used to make games. So, you know, we do a bunch of development for months, years, and then we kind of do a bit of marketing stuff at the end and release. And as I said before, it's like finger crossed development. Like, let's just hope that we get a feature from Steam or Apple or whoever else. The way I suggest doing it now is kind of the marketing type of thing is every day. So that whole, what did I do today that I can show to the community? And doing that from literally the first day of development if you can, or, you know, depending on what game you're making, delaying that first talking about it until you know what you're doing. But I've been prototyping new games and showing that off and just getting a temperature test of, like, is this, you know, is this doing well with the community, or are they just like, this is the stupidest idea I've heard? And so from that, it's really about releasing super early, doing lots of releases. So to kind of break it down, what we used to do was, you know, make a game, it'd go onto a gold master, it'd go off, fingers crossed that everything was good. Then we kind of have nowadays like early access and things. What I recommend doing now is actually having super early releases on Discord. You can kind of gate that. So whether it's a Patreon, you get early access on Patreon. Steam has, and mobile have really good abilities to like give out builds to hundreds or thousands, whatever number of players you want. And I recommend getting it actually in people's hands as early as possible so you can kind of make these course corrections. Right, so just basically tips there is releasing as early as you can and as often as you can. Yeah, course correcting from feedback, which is kind of the whole, like the idea of the talk. And then just bringing that in, making, you know, daily videos of that development process just so people can see it. So we'll kind of zip through this, but basically memes is kind of, this is what seems to have weirdly brought everything together. I was kind of anti-memes when they first started happening, but since then I've kind of embraced it. So you're going to see them everywhere. So within the Discord, this is on the Discord keyboard. If you type in Doulin, you get these memes. Some of them good, some of them not the best. So be careful what you say on Discord, like it's forever. It'll become a tenor Discord GIF that anybody can see, so be super careful. But these are all made by the community. They're in there now, and yeah, they just like, this is what people love. Like for the most part, the server is just spammed with these every time something happens. Obviously, social memes that I alluded to, like, yeah, lean into memes is a good way to get started while you're kind of finding your feet and figuring out what is my community like. It's a bit of a cheat that you can kind of, you know, get in there and find something that's already kind of popular and do your own version of it. I don't know if this is a good idea, but I've done them in game. So people are constantly asking for like crazy, stupid ideas. And I just do them. Like I have, the game's like a light mobile game, but it is kind of serious. And one thing I definitely recommend is gate this off. So when I first added the wart croc, which is like a croc into an A10, like people that are serious about A10s, like jets, they don't want to see any of this. So I hide this off. I have like a country, so you can pick your different countries to kind of filter the jets. I have memes as its own little category, and you don't see them in the all category just because there was too much hate. And people love it. Like this is a really good middle ground. And yeah, like the whole Greg thing is just like, to the answer to a lot of questions is just Greg thumbs up. Like that's just for whatever reason. And so when you then put that in the game, like again, getting a true fan, if you put their meme into the game, they'll kind of love it forever. I think kind of coming to the end, so this was in my appendix, but just so you're aware, like this is like the evolution. I've been thinking about this for a number of years in making games. This kind of started out as GIF-driven development. It was kind of like, how can I make a little GIF that shows off some little feature? And that's kind of what happened on X and Twitter was you would do some little GIF and it would go viral. And the next thing was obviously then trailer. So I'm going to put a trailer together, see if that sticks. Moved to TikTok, sort of doing these things on TikTok, and now it's like a more wholesome embracing of everything. So that's my talk. I've got a QR code here. That's got like the link tree, just to kind of give you an idea of that's what my link tree looks like. Reach out anytime on Twitter or Discord or email if you've got any questions. And I think we have a little bit of time for questions now. If you want to grab the mic, or I can you can just yell and I'll repeat the question. Yeah.
Do you find it all sort of works the same way with Steam as mobile and stuff?
So I'm not on Steam. So my biggest regret is I didn't set the Steam page up. I'm like, I'll do that next week. And I've been saying that for 18 months. So people go to the place that you click. Like joining a Discord's pretty complicated. Like I didn't think that there would be a high uptake. But the number of people that, so it's like 10%. So I've had like 50 million views and then 5 million likes and then a few 100,000 followers. Of those followers, about 30% of them seem to have joined the Discord, which is, I thought that would be 1%. Like 30% is pretty high. So I can't give you numbers, sorry, for Steam, but from everyone I've talked to that's making Steam games, that's actually the first thing they'll do is they'll put the Steam wishlist page, or the Steam page to say, wishlist us now. That's, for the most part, I believe, yeah, it works exactly the same way. But this is, yeah, what I should be able to tell you, but I can't yet. But yeah, that's my next test. Yeah.
How do you feel about putting like call to actions on the videos? Is that, should it be done or should it not be done?
Yep. So the question is about call to actions. Definitely, like I think as long as it's not obtrusive. So if I have a longer video, particularly towards the beginning, it would be like this game is out. Particularly when it was in the web, it was like game's out now, go play it, and like link in our bio is a good one. So tell the people to do something. Yes. Short answer is yes, definitely do it. As long as it's not like on the nose, like if it gets kind of gross and it's getting in the road, then I wouldn't do it. But certainly the whole link in bio works really well if you've got something new. So for the first few days after a new platform releases or there's like a new something, like join our Discord, we've got a competition going. I found that works well. It hasn't turned anybody off. The algorithm's kind of black magic, so I don't know if it's worked, but again, that comes into the whole sort of experimentation thing of give it a try. Your community may hate it or they may love it, but definitely try it, particularly at the beginning if you're trying to get people like, a lot of the Steam games have that sort of like, I've seen people pop up when it's like wish list on Steam. That actually seems to go really well because the algorithm loves it when somebody clicks into the video, into your profile and then clicks a link, that feeds back really well. So there's a good chance when done well, it actually feeds into the black magic of the algorithm that picks it up. Yeah.
So if you have a particularly successful TikTok and you're kind of noticing really good uptake on it, but maybe it's not, like, you're having a large percentage of people watch it and maybe it's getting you new followers, but not a crazy amount of views. Do you bother promoting it, or do you just
like paid promotion?
Yeah, do you do everything organically?
Yeah, I on purpose, I haven't spent $1 on it. Whenever I tend to do it is because I'll go, I should promote this. And then I look at how much it costs per view, and it's just like, or I should spend an hour and do 4 more videos, and that's going to pay off well. So I haven't done that, and I really can't talk to how well that works. But I would definitely suggest it doesn't have to be that way. Like every single video now is like, hey, you should promote this. Yeah, they want it. But the main thing is, hopefully nobody's from TikTok here, but you don't have to do that. But I can't speak for whether that helps you at the beginning or not. One quick thing. The way it works at the beginning is you put a video out, it will show it to people in your area. And again, I live on the Sunshine Coast, like literally in the middle of nowhere. So it was really hard to begin with because it was showing it to people like kind of close to me. You will get to that point again after about the 20th video or when you hit this weird viral point and the algorithm will start showing it to people outside of Australia. And that's when it'll kind of explode. And so I'm sure if you promoted it, you could skip that step, and it may have changed. It was 18 months ago, but I don't think you have to. One more question? Yeah.
All right, thank you. Maybe I can tie two together. Thank you for that talk. You obviously work a lot. Perhaps in that graph you didn't describe how many hours that actually takes. This seems like a huge amount of work. But I guess the more serious question is, did you try like experimenting with like advertising the features that you have planned, like a roadmap feature or anything like that?
So the question, well, partly do I work a lot? Is probably I did have actually how long I sleep and are awake for, but I thought it was too controversial. It's basically I have a 12 hours of kind of sort of working and 6 hours with the family, 6 hours sleeping, which I think is really well balanced because it's like clean, 25%. Do I advertise features? Yeah, like every feature or sub-feature, like every little part within it, I treat that as its own little thing, and it goes through the life cycle of a video to kind of promote it, maybe ask some questions, release it, see how it goes, talk in Discord to kind of see what's happening, and then kind of the post, did that work well? How can I improve that? Where can I go from there? Yeah. Maybe one more, we've got 2 minutes. Yeah.
I just want to ask, when it came to like TikTok and that, how much time you were actually putting? Like, if you have a video that's very successful there, are you using it just to move your audience into your Discord to keep that engagement there, or do you engage with the community on TikTok?
Oh yeah, great question. Yeah, I try and respond. To begin with, I try to respond to every comment. Obviously, that doesn't scale well. But yeah, I try to, at the beginning as well, again, black magic, black arts of the algorithm. I think that if you respond to lots of them, it gets them coming back in and you can kind of tilt it. But for the most part, it's kind of out there. But I do that as an engagement thing, and I'll often say, let's chat about this on Discord to have like a deeper conversation. One, yeah.
I was just thinking, since you spend a considerable amount of time on social media as well with promoting the game, could you consider that a revenue stream as well, if that would be successful?
Yeah, possibly. So they keep telling me as well, the flip side to promoting it is, hey, you should earn money from whatever the thing is, the earn dollar thing on. I haven't done it. I'm trying to keep it a bit more pure of like, I just want everybody in and so I haven't, but it's definitely worth looking at. It would be another stream, much like Patreon would be a good way to do it. All right, we're at time. Cool, thank you everybody.